Thank you very much. Well, you must be wondering, what is a brainwashing mind control expert talking at a TEDx conference on emerging technology, right? Or not? Does everybody understand how important our world is and our minds are, and just the unprecedented amount of influence that's coming at us? I can tell you, as a mental health professional, someone who has been helping people get out of cults and mind control and brainwashing situations for 40 years, constantly people are confused. What is a cult? What is mind control? What is brainwashing? Oh, my boss brainwashes me. Oh, advertising brainwashes me. The government brainwashes me, etc. But what I'm here to say is, actually, I want to present a model for you to think about, a spectrum from healthy to unhealthy influence. Healthy influence, there's informed consent. You know what you're getting involved with. You know about the person. There's choice. On the destructive side, there's deception. There's manipulation. On the healthy side, it respects your free will. It respects your conscience, where the unhealthy side is using guilt manipulation, fear manipulation, and wanting you to become tranced out, obedient slaves. And we have on this continuum some themes. Again, this is not a binary of all or nothing. This is a spectrum. And my call to action is, your minds are precious, and only you should control your mind. I'm calling for people to take responsibility for their own lives, their own minds, and realize just how vulnerable we really all are. On this chart, we have leaders talking about healthy leaders that are transparent and accountable and responsible. And on the other side, the destructive side, narcissistic, psychopathological, elitist, never admits they do anything wrong, secretive, deceptive, and they want loyalty and they want dependency. And in terms of organizations, there needs to be checks and balances. There needs to be individual diversity. And the means actually help to create the ends. On the destructive side, people justify the ends, justify the means. We're going to save the world, different cults say, and therefore we justify all kinds of unethical behavior. And the biggest vulnerability, if I was sitting there, I'd be going, I'm too smart. It would never happen to me. I'm too together. I know myself. I have good family, good education. And what I'm saying is, it happened to me. So I'm standing in front of you as someone who in 1974 was going to Queens College. I was a creative writing major. Writing poetry was my life goal. I wanted to become a professor and teach writing. And then I get into the moon cult through a deceptive recruitment. After my girlfriend dumped me and 3 women were pretending to be college students, deceptively recruited me at a college campus. And I wound up spending 2.5 years in a fascist right-wing cult, where I turned my back on my Jewish upbringing. I was raised in Flushing, Queens. I turned my back on my family, I turned my back on my values, and I came to believe the Messiah was on the earth, and I needed to follow him blindly and kill myself if I had to for the cult. So my question to you is, how would you know if you were under mind control? How would anybody know? Because when I got into the moon cult, my friends tried to talk me out of it. My family tried to talk me out. They said, Steve, you're brainwashed. You're mind control. Wake up. He's disgusting. He's a fat Korean billionaire. He's not the Messiah. Come on. And I was like, you just don't understand. Time will tell how great a leader he is and such. So there really is a formula. I've been spending my life helping deprogram. I don't like that term. Call it strategic interactive approach to help coach family and friends on how to ethically influence to wake up and get out of cults. But there is a formula, but it really depends on knowing this model and being able to be clear about it, and what I refer to as the bite model of mind control, which I'm coming to in a moment. But first I want to just talk about, this is a scientific reality. This is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association. This is version 5, and the criteria of being in a mind control cult has existed in version 3, 4, and 5. And it's an identity disturbance. Literally, the Steve Hassan that wanted to write poetry and loved reading and loved my family and loved my values and the values of democracy was suppressed by a cult identity, a pseudo identity that was programmed into me. This is validated by all kinds of research from former military intelligence experts like Robert J. Lifton, Margaret Singer, Lewis West, Edgar Schein. So what I'm talking to you about today about emerging technology is that the internet is giving unprecedented opportunity to bad people to take over our lives, take over our minds, influence our elections. And in particular, trafficking is a major world problem. There's an estimated 25 million people who are being trafficked. And terrorist cults like Daesh, ISIS, I've studied how they recruit on the internet, and it's very sophisticated. This pimp wrote a book on how to brainwash the hose. I know it's disgusting, but the methodology is just being taught openly on the internet for anyone who wants to abuse people. This is a high-profile case right now in federal court in New York. It's a cult called Nexium, and this is a victim who was branded with the initials of the cult leader, Keith Raniere. And the defense of Keith Raniere and Claire Bronfman, who is a billionaire heiress, has been funding this particular cult, are saying people voluntarily chose to be branded and give up collateral where they could be blackmailed if they ever wanted to leave the group. So I'm hoping this will be a precedent-setting case. So I wanted to tell you, cults and mind control groups come in many different shapes, sizes: political cults, therapy cults, spiritual cults, multi-level marketing, large group awareness, and pseudo-therapeutic ones. And I really want people to understand that there are behavioral variables that can demonstrate where on the continuum any relationship, could be a controlling husband or wife, could be a controlling company, could be a controlling group, is. I'm at 63 years of age. I've entered a doctoral program at the encouragement of a professor at the program in psychiatry and the law at Harvard Medical School, because I got involved with this forensic think tank because I realized we need to change the legal system. We need to have clarity of thinking that there is unethical influence and there's ethical influence. And by going through this, I did my first research project with over 1,000 respondents, and we got significance. Any group, any relationship that's depriving you of sleep, is doing behavior modification techniques, is demanding obedience to authority. As I mentioned before, deceptive recruitment or lack of informed consent is a huge criteria of a destructive cult. Propaganda, confession, spying, turning people in. And in terms of thought control, totalist ideology, loaded language, thought-terminating cliches. And I want to talk for a minute about hypnosis. I was in a cult for 2.5 years. By the way, I was deprogrammed out of the moon cult, if you were wondering How'd you get out of this? You were so fanatical. I fell asleep at the wheel of a van and drove into the back of a tractor trailer truck at 80 miles an hour, which got me away from physically from the group. Visiting my sister and my family did a deprogramming intervention, which took 5 days before I could start thinking maybe Moon wasn't the Messiah. And it was 4 years after that that I saw a stage hypnotist do a hypnosis demonstration, and I went, that's what I used to do when I was a leader doing lectures for the Moonies. And that's another TED Talk, all about the dark side of hypnosis. But mind controllers know how to use it. And by the way, when young people especially are at the screens for hours and hours and hours, binge watching radicalizing YouTube videos, this is a very destructive combination. The universal mind control technique in all my research is what I call phobia indoctrination. It's the indoctrination of irrational fears that if you ever question the leader or the group, terrible things will happen to you. And in my case, I was brought to see the Exorcist movie in 1974 with 100 other Moonies. We were bussed up to hear Moon give a speech about God made the Exorcist movie. And this was a prophecy of what would happen to you if you ever leave the Unification Church. And there I was, a young Jewish man, 19 years old, didn't believe in Satan at all, afraid of invisible entities invading my mind if I didn't do exactly as I was indoctrinated to do. And I did not have a negative thought until my deprogramming. So I talked about a lot of these points already in the BITE model. And I just want to talk for a minute about just how much the internet is being manipulated now. When the internet began, it was the greatest thing for people like myself, former members, who were trying to share our knowledge and experience with others. We could disseminate the information, and cults like Scientology and the Moonies and such, were trying to suppress information. But it was a wonderful thing. Now things are buried. Search engine manipulation is taking place. Wikipedia has been co-opted, unfortunately, to the chagrin of so many folks. Fake websites, false news. And what's coming down the pike is incredible positive things can come out of the internet, but also incredible programming opportunities for despots and dictators and cult leaders and traffickers. When I was being recruited by these women, they flirted with me and I answered all their questions about my background. But now data is being collected in mass about us, making us much more vulnerable and susceptible to mind control. And I just mentioned some of the internet games, etc., that groups like ISIS are using. So things like confusion techniques, sleep deprivation, subliminal programming is taking place right now on the internet. There are people teaching hypnosis. If you want to rape somebody, they'll teach you techniques for covert hypnosis, and it's just there. I know the news right now is about 3D printing of guns, but mind control techniques are freely being taught on the internet, and it's very, very dangerous. So as I sum up, I want to just say, avoid black and white, all or nothing, good versus evil mindsets. And that people can interact with people who've been indoctrinated and help them to wake up. Because deep down inside, I believe people want to be free and they want to know the truth and they don't like to be manipulated and suffocating. And remember, there is a model for how to discern. And going forward, we need massive education in schools, not just anti-bullying programs, but how to protect yourself from people who are manipulating and mind controlling you. We need to teach critical thinking skills. We need to teach social psychology. And I want to do a shout out to one of my mentors, Philip Zimbardo, who has a program called the Heroic Imagination Project, which has small video vignettes of social psychology demonstrations that will help it creates a curriculum to help young people understand just how vulnerable we are to groups, to peer pressure, to authority figures, as well as other psychology, social psychology things. I just came from a complex systems conference, and I realized that as we're developing AI, we need to teach our computer systems this model to be able to look at behaviors specifically of what anybody's doing and such. It's going to be very, very important. And we need trustworthy portals for information. And I want to do a call to action for former members. This includes abused women who had abusive narcissistic husbands, the Me Too movement. If you look through the BITE model, it fits that situation too. Destructive families can fit that situation. I want people who've had this experience to say, yes, I was vulnerable, it happened to me, and let's move on, which is what I've been trying to do with my life. And my last message is, it's your mind, it's precious, and only you should control it. Because we have this beautiful world, and we want to live together, and help each other in love, in truth, in goodness. And I just love TEDx. I'm in the cult of TEDx. Happily. Thank you.